our business tomorrow. Yeah. Now we get to customers who have done something, yeah, and have taken some of this information, have transformed the business, have done something new. The first one is Andy Lingard from Towers Watson, who is over there. Yeah, welcome, Andy. He's a long-term SafeNet customer, has already spoken at UK events on different technology that he has deployed at Towers Watson. Now he's going to speak about the cloud. Andy is the global software development team leader for the property and casualty business line at Towers Watson. Towers Watson is a company you might know from pension and pension risk management, but they also have a software division, and Andy actually ended up at Towers Watson, and Towers Watson is a SafeNet customer through the acquisition of EMB, if I'm not mistaken, which is based in Epsom in the UK. So looking forward to your speech on cloud usage. It's going to be interesting. Thank you.
Okay, well, good afternoon. Hopefully the microphone's working. I've got the added excitement this afternoon of just figuring out if my voice is going to hold up throughout the entirety of this presentation. I've been losing my voice over the last few days, so please excuse me if I take a few sips of water as we go through. I thought the presentation by Jeff and the earlier one by Amy actually were particularly relevant to what I'm going to say. This wasn't at least planned by me, but I think some of what I'm going to say here sits very well with what's just been described. I want to talk a little bit about some of Towers Watson's experience of using SafeNet technology. I think if I'm going to do that kind of coherently so you kind of get what I'm talking about, I guess what I ought to do first is just very briefly introduce Towers Watson, in particular some of its software products, so you get a bit of a feel for how we are supporting our customers, who our customers are, and also talk a little bit about some of the industry trends that we are seeing that particularly have an impact on software rights management, and perhaps may also have an impact on some of the industries that you're involved with. I will briefly mention our software licensing strategy, which again speaks to some of the things that Amy was talking about earlier. And then I'll talk about how SafeNet technology has implemented some of that strategy, say a bit about where we've got to and some of the challenges for the future. And hopefully, as we go through that as a presentation, at least some of what I say will hopefully be interesting, maybe spark some discussion a little later on. So first of all, just very briefly, to introduce Towers Watson. We provide a combination of software and consulting services overall around the whole area of people and risk and financial management. But in particular, what I want to focus on this afternoon is a part of Towers Watson called Risk Consulting and Software, RCS. Our customer base are primarily the world's insurance companies, and we provide a combination of risk analytics and decision support software, and we augment that with a number of forms of consulting, actuarial consulting, management consulting, and also IT deployment consulting around how to deploy our software solutions into insurance company businesses. A little bit of an overview of examples of the kind of software we provide. I've got 4 categories of software on this slide. Firstly, we provide financial modeling software. So this is software where an insurance company would use our software to build potentially quite complex capital models, financial models, that would model each aspect of asset risk and underwriting risk, calibrating that with, for example, real-world claims data, and by running through a large number of Monte Carlo simulations, come up with a view of capital adequacy. In other words, how much money an insurance company kind of needs to hold under most risk scenarios to stay solvent. And this is something that insurance regulators find particularly important to ensure is being managed in a good way. We also have software that supports teams of people around a process called reserving. That is figuring out and estimating how much money to set aside to pay out expected claims. We provide a suite of software to support pricing. So, for example, for motor and household insurance, we have software that models customer behavior, likely customer risk, which we can then translate with an understanding of the competitive environment that an insurance company is operating in, the kind of insurance premiums they should be charging for different kind of categories of customer. And finally, quite an exciting application that plays quite well to some of the points that Jeff just mentioned. We have a software service called Drivability, which is a big data application. It's a service which provides a risk score for usage-based insurance. So this is where cars would be fitted initially with some kind of telematics device, but potentially migrating from there to sensors incorporated into smartphones and ultimately into the connected car itself with an app perhaps running in the car, where on a second-by-second basis, the idea is that we would take telematics data, for example, that reflects driver behavior. We bring that together with a whole lot of other data, like the road characteristics and the weather at the time the journey was being undertaken, and from that provide a near real-time risk score for each journey, which can then be used to moderate the insurance premium of individual drivers. So if you drive safely and considerately, you may well get a discount on your insurance, and if you drive like a maniac, then I suppose quite fairly you may get an increase in your insurance premium. The other aspect of this, Jeff mentioned actually, is we can also use this to feed back to the driver and provide, if you like, driver improvement tips and improvements, how specific individuals could improve the risk level with regard to how they're driving. All of these require some kind of monetization capability for us. So the idea is we've got to figure out how to do that. This just gives a little example of some of the characteristics of our software, another dimension onto that. So on the left here, you can see, I guess what I've called here a management control loop, the idea of initially collecting data. We've heard how data and creating services from data and finding valuable information from data is a key aspect of what's driving a lot of business transformation at the moment. The idea here is getting that data, consolidating it, cleaning it, bringing it together perhaps with other data sets where in combination we can create value that was not there in either data set alone. So providing synergy across data fusion, then providing analysis and assessment, identifying insights in that data, using those insights to plan and make decisions, and then implementing those decisions. And I guess Towers Watson software is typically focused around the analysis, the planning and decision-making and decision implementation side. We partner with others around the data collection, monitoring, and data consolidation side. With our software having typically the characteristics you can see here, rich graphical user interaction, because we typically need to bring together the analytics capability of software and computers with the human insights and intelligence of human expert analysts, and together allow that combination to drive better business decisions than either of those two working by themselves. And the idea is to try to increase business agility by increasing the cycle of that management control loop. So if a business can operate in a faster, more agile way, but without sacrificing the quality of the decisions, then they can outmaneuver competitors who respond more slowly. So a few industry trends. None of these, I think, will come as any surprise to most of you, but they are very relevant, certainly, to the industry we're in, which is insurance. Excuse me. I guess the first is around large-scale parallel computing. This provides quite an interesting challenge for licensing as well, in fact. But I guess if I wind the clock back a decade, our software, our analytics software, was running on, at the time, high-end workstations. Those workstations will be capable of calculating about 100 million floating point operations per second. They'd run under someone's desk and they'd support some kind of advanced modeling solution or something like that. Now, if we wind the clock forward to today, the likes of Intel and other integrated circuit manufacturers are developing and are now selling single integrated circuits, single silicon chips that can support a million floating point operations a second. And it's quite reasonable then to consider putting, say, 1,000 of those chips together in some kind of grid or in the cloud and dedicating that 1,000-chip solution to a single computational problem. So already we're now getting to the possibility of being able to use a compute capability that has something like 1,000 million floating point operations a second that can be dedicated to a single computational task with really quite cost-effective characteristics. Not at all something that is an uncommon thing that would only be available to the very highest sort of high-end government applications. Much more a commodity thing now. I guess to put that into context, if you imagine that workstation of 10 years ago and maybe put 1,000 of those in this room, which is just about possible. I think you'd probably cause an electrical fire, but I think you could perhaps put that to one side. This kind of compute capability then would be not just a room full of those PCs, but 10,000 rooms full of those 1,000 PCs, which is a pretty phenomenal capability. But there is a catch. And the catch is that electronic switching speeds haven't been increasing. And the way this extra compute power has been made possible is by going very, very parallel. And that does imply the need to ensure that there is a generation of software, and it's a challenge for us, and in fact a challenge for many industries, where traditional legacy applications that really were not designed for very, very large-scale parallelism we now have to figure out how we are going to use the power of this very large-scale parallel compute environment, how we license those kind of environments to deliver the power of this highly parallel capability. And I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. Another industry trend, as we've heard, is cloud. No presentation, I think, today would be complete without using the cloud word. In particular, though, the kind of real change that insurers are now seeing is the on-demand aspect of it. So rather than previously adding another 500 servers into the data center, maybe taking 9 to 18 months to go through a CapEx process and then getting the servers ordered, there's a lead time, it gets installed and commissioned and so forth. Within about 20 minutes of putting a request into a cloud provider, you'll have 5,000 or 500 servers, say, at your disposal. You can use them. When you've finished using them, as we've just heard, you can make them go away again and stop paying for them. And again, there's quite a challenge for a software provider like us and a service provider like us, because if the licensing model or the cost model around the compute infrastructure is on demand and you pay for use and that's it, there's kind of a bit of a mismatch if we don't follow suit with the software and service layers that sit on top of that infrastructure that have completely discontinuous pricing models. So again, a challenge for us. Software as a service, of course, is a further follow-on from the cloud. Just provide the whole solution as a service as opposed to just the infrastructure. And very much for us, big data and big analytics is absolutely something that we're right in the middle of, and we need to continue to exploit. In terms of the way our software is deployed, we have seen a trend where, as I said, a decade or so ago, our software was running on workstations. And there's been this trend of then our software evolving into enterprise solutions in data centers, running on grids in data centers. Those data centers almost ubiquitously now becoming virtualized, I guess, to form private clouds, and are now increasingly, at least in early adopter insurers, a combination, maybe a hybrid combination of private clouds and public clouds, and kind of bursting into the public cloud where for short periods of peak time, extra compute capacity can be brought to bear to process particularly time-consuming compute jobs. So a quick word on what our licensing strategy is. Because we sell on the one hand, to the world's largest multinational insurers, But on the other hand, we need to make sure our software is relevant to small, single country, single line of business specialist insurers. We have to have some kind of licensing strategy that reflects value and reflects the kind of like the scale of the business being supported. So we have a three-dimensional licensing model. First dimension is around time. So we have a subscription-based model. We certainly don't have a perpetual license model. We have a subscription-based model. Traditionally, this has been an annual fee. But as I mentioned earlier, as we're starting to explore how our software can sit on top of on-demand cloud services, we are now challenged to explore how we might provide a pay-per-minute model as well. The challenge there being, of course, what we don't want to do is to cannibalize in a really unhelpful way our annual fee model and realize that we end up with less revenue than previously. So there's a challenge there. Another dimension of our licensing model is around features. So we do have multiple product additions. There are upgrades as perhaps people want to use more capabilities in the software for more complex kinds of modeling and application options in our software. And another dimension of our licensing strategy is around concurrency. So one aspect of that is the number of concurrent users that can use our software. Another is around system capacity parameters. So, for example, for large-scale supercompute level kind of calculations that might potentially be compatible with running on 5,000 processing cores, it seems reasonable to charge more for a calculation running on 5,000 processing cores as it does on a calculation possibly running on just a few. Our software needs to be agnostic to whether it's deployed on workstations or in a private data center or on the cloud. And in fact, we have customers where all of those are the case, and we need to somehow make sure that we can provide a capability in all those areas. And again, that provides quite a challenge with regard to how licenses are managed and software rights management happens. And I think a part of our strategy as well is we use third-party technology where it's appropriate. Although we are a software developer and a software vendor, we kind of want our software engineers to focus on analytics and modeling applications rather than building out software rights management solutions. So where it makes sense, we do want to kind of partner with people who can provide that latter capability for us. So that then brings me to our experience with SafeNet. And there are two phases of the work I'd like to touch on. I guess just in terms of history, back in the days where really we were just focused on workstations, we previously managed licensing through Aladdin's now very obsolete hardlock dongle solution. And of course it became clear a good few years ago now that that solution was now obsolete, and we needed to move to something that had a longer life expectancy ahead of it. We did take the opportunity then to really kind of take stock, look around. We did explore whether we should build our own licensing solution. We decided we shouldn't do that. And we looked at a number of technology vendors in this space. We did select SafeNet. And I'm still very pleased to say that I'm very pleased we did select SafeNet. Partly because they had a solution that fitted very well with some of the legacy constraints we had. We wanted a solution that was completely agnostic as to whether license keys were provided through USB hardware keys or a purely software solution, and the SafeNet solution, the Sentinel LDK solution, fitted the bill there. But also I think we can say that SafeNet proved themselves to be a partner rather than simply a vendor in the way that even these early interactions happened. But I'll give an example of that in just a minute. We did, when we started using what was originally termed SafeNet Sentinel HASP, need to make some refinements on top of the basic SafeNet provided services to make sure that the use cases that we had were fully supported. So one was that we needed to make sure that the time-based license keys, where they were provided with a dongle, didn't use a dongle that had a power cell in them, and that was the original SafeNet solution. But we found that we felt that because when we upgrade a license and we extend a license term for another year, if a customer pays a renewal fee, we send an extend instruction to the dongle rather than asking for the dongle to be sent back, being reprogrammed and sent out again, because the administration overhead for that, particularly on the customer side, is too great. So we needed to have a no power cell solution. I believe SafeNet now has that solution as well, but not at the time we needed to use the technology. We also needed to batch together these extend instructions so that it was immaterial, which extend instruction had to be matched up with which particular one of several hundred keys a customer might have, because again the admin overhead at the customer end would be too great otherwise. And we built our own administration application on top of the Business Studio management database to best meet some of the administration use cases that we needed to build into our company. But what I'm pleased to say now is that solution has settled down very well. The system now supports many thousands of license keys and works very well as a business as usual capability. So then the second phase of introduction of SafeNet technology was around the cloud. As our software evolved, we needed to build out, particularly in the capital modelling space, a facility where this very, very large-scale parallelism that was now available at really quite affordable prices provided through the cloud was available to these capital modelling environments. So the idea would be you might have 500 servers in a data centre, but for peak periods of the year where you were doing some quite intense capital modelling calculations, you might want to bring on stream maybe another couple of thousand servers for a few weeks or perhaps even just a few hours to support very high calculation loads, and then switch them off again. So this kind of gave rise to a sort of question about how that kind of thing should be managed. So we needed to manage capacity-based licensing, supercompute scale calculations, cloud-based, thousands of processing cores, and we needed an optional pay-as-you-use per minute kind of tracking solution, but also an option where we would constrain the overall amount of parallelism to respect an amount of license fees that had been agreed. And this solution needed to overcome certain limitations where the original Sentinel HASP capability we had really wasn't suitable for this kind of requirement. So the question really was, could we use SafeNet's Sentinel Cloud service? And we started exploring this question when the Sentinel Cloud service was really quite new. And the idea here is that we would connect into that service to administrate licenses, get out usage reports and so forth. And that licensing service would then access, in this particular case, we had an example of running a product we have called Moses Azure, running on 750 virtual machines in the cloud with an aggregate of 3,000 processing cores, but with concurrency being both monitored in some cases or limited in other cases by Sentinel Cloud. So the early Sentinel Cloud service, I guess it's fair to say, what wasn't originally developed with the Towers Watson use case in mind. So we were giving the service quite a hard time. And initially, we found that service wasn't scalable to the kind of requirement we had in terms of scalability, in terms of response time, and in fact reliability under those high loads. So we kind of had a choice then, really, about how we move forward. But what we did is we decided we would progress with SafeNet with a joint initiative where we agreed some service targets and acceptance criteria for the kind of performance that would be needed to meet the kind of use case we had. We invested in this initiative in terms of building load delivery and monitoring applications, providing feedback to SafeNet. We developed some retry logic protocol layer that supported use of this capability with unreliable links. And SafeNet certainly invested significantly in architecture refinements, in additional cloud compute capacity for the service. And I'm very pleased to say now that the service is fully operational. We are running with real customers now. It reliably manages concurrency of around 6,000 processing threads in around 30 seconds. And for calculations that can take many hours, that 30 seconds sort of startup time is pretty inconsequential. It's delivered through a dedicated Amazon Web Services service where the Sentinel Cloud instance is dedicated to Towers Watson, but it's managed by SafeNet. And I think this experience has been kind of mutually beneficial for both of us. We've now got a great solution that manages our Moses Azure capability, and I'd like to think that SafeNet has a much more scalable and resilient cloud service that can be deployed, in other areas as well. So I'll just conclude with a few future challenges. So where we want to head now, I guess, really is we do have this need to be completely agnostic as to whether we deploy on workstations, in private data centers, in a public cloud, and having some kind of fully integrated HASP cloud solution where we can make that kind of deployment decision at license sale time rather than at development time, even more easily than is possible to do now would be great to see. We will be, continuing as SafeNet evolves their roadmaps and evolves their technology. Obviously, it makes sense for us to connect into that roadmap and make sure we move at an appropriate point with that. So we'll be needing to do that. And obviously, we'll take advantage, hopefully, with the improved sort of reporting and better invoicing capabilities that ultimately will be built into services like Sentinel Cloud. So, in summary, what I can say now is that both Sentinel HASP, or Sentinel LDK, and Sentinel Cloud are really now business-critical enablers for the risk consulting and software business. That technology is operating across many hundreds of the world's largest insurers. I guess this is a statement of trust in SafeNet because I guess if there were to be some kind of catastrophic problem with that technology, and we certainly are not seeing that, if there were, not only would Towers Watson be in real trouble, but actually a number of business-critical processes across a large number of the world's key insurers would be in real trouble as well. So it's good that SafeNet's technology is proving to be reliable. I think in terms of the other just concluding point I'd like to say is around partnership. Really, I guess it would be fair to say we've been a fairly demanding user of SafeNet technology. We have pushed against original technical limitations both of Sentinel HASP and Sentinel Cloud. But it's great to see really that SafeNet have demonstrated they can rise to the challenge. They've worked with us to overcome some of those limitations, to address the kind of use cases that we have. And in that regard, I'd certainly view them not as a vendor really, but as a valuable partner. So, Ansgar, thank you very much.
Thank you,
and back to you.
Thank you. Unless there's an immediate question, we'll have a panel after the break. And I guess then you'll all have opportunities to ask questions to all presenters. Great case study. I think it's a bit, when we first spoke, it's a bit like we wanted to go for a joint bike ride, or we wanted to propose to you to go for a bike ride, and you said, why don't we go straight to the Formula One racetrack? And we weren't yet prepared, but I think you really showed us where you can push the technology, our own technology. Our next speaker is, we're going to stay in the world of cloud, Guillaume Chevallier from France, from a company called Neopost. probably if you know Pitney Bowes in the US, they are a strong competitor. If you're in the postage industry, you can imagine what challenges you have these days and how you have to transform your business model from a hardware business model to a software and services world. And Guillaume will tell us a bit more about these challenges and how you address those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So I'm going to start first talking a bit about who is Neopost, what is Neopost, what we are doing, what challenges we are facing today, and then deep dive a bit more about what is provisioning and licensing to us, what we did with that, and where we are heading to in the next years. So about Neopost. So Neopost is a global supplier of mail solutions, actually. That's the core business of Neopost. So mainly specialized in postage mailers and folder inserters machines. That's our main business. But as well, we are now a major player in shipping solutions and communication solutions. So in our traditional mail, we sell folder inserters, we sell postage meters. So we are competing mainly only against Pitney Bowes worldwide. So it's a very convenient market for us. We are two in the world sharing the market. So we have a high profitability, etc. But as any actor in this postal industry, we face today a decline of the mail volumes. And so about 8 to 10 years ago, we decided to enhance our portfolio of products. So we invested in shipping and tracking solutions. So for instance, we equip Royal Mail for their parcel deliveries with tracking hardware, or we do some requests for identity. We have recently launched a parcel locker business that is really key based on the e-commerce parcel volume increasing dramatically. And we as well enhanced our portfolio with digital communication, data management, software solutions. So we are really becoming a software company. So we did acquisition of companies like GMC Software Technology, who is ranked top player by Gartner in the communication management solutions, or Satori Software, that is more specialized in data cleansing, data management. These are two examples. We have other areas, other software companies we acquired in the last years that are listed here. So the Neopost activity in the software industry, in the software sector, is growing really fast. And why? It's because we have, I think, a clear strategy. We realized we needed to change. And so what we want to do is improve the communications for our customers. So we are helping our customers to communicate with their customer. We are mainly B2B. And we want to improve the communications at every stage of the sending and the receiving for them. And the strategy is first to help our 800K customers worldwide to move to digital and to address their existing challenges. So managing the data quality, the multiplication of the communications channels, and the parcel management thanks to the greatly increase of the parcel volumes. But as well, so that's the first axis, I would say. The second axis is don't miss the mobile and the digital moment. So we are achieving a huge transformation at the moment, pretty in line with what we heard this morning during the speech, the different speech we had, and the speakers we had. A huge transformation toward moving from hardware and service-based company toward customer company focused on software and digital. And for that as well, we have a huge cultural change, and we hire people. We used in the past to hire people coming from Canon, Xerox, Pitney Bowes a lot. And now we still do, of course, but we as well try to hire people, coming from the Silicon Valley, having launched startups, etc., to get some new DNA, to transform our DNA and to turn to be more disruptive and more competitive in this new market we enter, where we are no more competing with only one company, but with thousands of. And the third axis is to achieve, the third objective, I would say, is to achieve 30 to 35% of our sales revenue with software solutions by 2017, 2018. Today, we do 20% already. So we are already a software company. 20% out of 1.2 billion euro worldwide. And I must say, this transformation is really taking place. Is there because there was a good announcement as well that was done. Neopost was ranked number 12 among the top 250 French software companies. So be it publisher or developer companies. So what we needed when we started to address the digital world. First, I must say, we have acquired some companies, right? So I mentioned GMC, Satori Software. Our strategy is the following. These companies will continue to address the high-end market, because this is a market where people will require professional services and a lot of customization. But for small and mid-market, we will use our Neopost distribution network to address these customer segments. Out of our 800K customers worldwide, 70% are SMEs. So that's key for us to leverage our existing Neopost distribution network to target these customers. And what we try to achieve then is with this software acquisition, this software we acquired, we take the best of breed of it, we turn it into easy to use and simple SaaS solutions, and we want to distribute it, sell it, with a minimal cost of sales. So our idea is more to create a marketplace for SMBs where they can find the apps they need for any communication or shipping need. So what we needed in that sense is, first, we needed to be time to market. We had a mid-market output management solution rolled out early 2013, and we needed to be on time to support the operation and the business for this new solution. So time to market was a key factor. So of course, this solution as well, is on-premise and SaaS. We offered two possibilities. And so we needed to be able to provision and license both on-premise and SaaS solutions. Plus, we need to guarantee the necessary level of security to our customers. So, for instance, through the encryption of the licensing keys and etc. Then, we are not starting our project just addressing this output management for mid-market solution. We were starting it knowing that we would have tens of other software coming in the portfolio in the next year and the year to come. So we wanted to have no business model limitation at all. So we wanted to be able to sell on-premise solutions, but as well, among SaaS, the pay-as-you-go model, the freemium model. We wanted to be able to run free trials, to do some pay-per-click, pay-per-usage, and of course, in the on-premise, to do some license plus maintenance model. And of course, as I told you, there is not only one solution, there are tens of solutions coming. We get this solution into our portfolio from many sources. So be it internal R&D, be it the software business units we acquired, be it forthcoming acquisitions, and be it partners. We will partner as well a lot with other software companies. So same thing, We wanted to be able to manage our repository of product and the different business models we needed to put in place to welcome and to onboard these new applications in our portfolio. Then the reason why we picked SafeNet at this point in time. So first, internally, we already used some SafeNet solution. Our R&D department was already creating software for our customers. We were already developing software for our customers, and we already had some SafeNet licenses with regard to, I guess, encryption and license key generation. But honestly, I did not really pay attention to what we had in the past. I know we heard about SafeNet and Sentinel Cloud thanks to this knowledge. The main competition at this point in time was with other homemade in-house systems that we did. Our franking machines are already all connected. We had a couple of software that you can use to run your machine or to monitor your postal spendings, etc. All this was as well licensed, but mainly was licensed thanks to homemade system. And by the time we were thinking about onboarding tens of apps in the next 5 years, we realized we would spend too much time in making our own system rather than buying one, partnering with one. During the evaluation process, we decided to run a proof of concept. So we had a proof of concept with SafeNet team, involving as well a third party that is a subscription billing system. Decision makers were IT and R&D, and that closed the link with what Prakash was saying this morning with regards to the executive and not really worrying about licensing and provisioning. And in that sense, I can tell you on the overall business, of course, they are 100% behind us, and they are asking for results every day. But this key part that was provisioning for our customers and licensing, okay, it's up to us, right? IT R&D do it. We don't really need to know how it works. Now they realize what it can bring, thanks to as well management of the data and the fact that you can then model the best offer for your customers. Now they get it, so we're starting working on the data we have in there. And what were the winning points for Sentinel Cloud? So the winning points are the following. First, key point for us, be flexible with business models. We really want to do per user, per usage, pay per click. We even want to roll out when you didn't use, I don't know, you have the right to edit 5,000K documents, and you didn't spend everything during your billing period. You can use the overage and the next period, etc. So all these kind of things we wanted to address, and we did not want any limitation. We want to perform A/B testing. We want to be able to model our product differently if it does not meet the market needs, etc. So we needed a real flexibility that we found in Sentinel Cloud. Second point and third point were to be able to manage on-premise and SaaS. It was key as well. So not only generate license keys, but rather be able to provision our systems accordingly. Third important point, so we would not run the business only with Sentinel. So of course, it's embedded in a complete platform, in a complete ecosystem. So the fact that this is API based was really important for us. And as we as well work in the mid or high-end market with bank, insurance, etc., where we do not necessarily have connected applications, we needed as well the licenses software to run in a runtime mode. And that was one of the winning points. Then the strong synergies with the subscription billing was a key factor as well. So we realized from the start that we are a company that is really decentralized. So any of our subsidiary has its own IT system at some point. And for instance, you would have a Neopost USA that runs with Oracle ERP, and Neopost France UK that runs with SAP ERP. So we recognized from the start that we could not do the subscription billing that is global to our activity in one of these systems. And we would have to pay, the TCO would be high, and the investment in customization would be high as well. So we decided to go with a off-the-shelf on-the-market solution for subscription billing. And based on that, the licensing and provisioning piece of our architecture needed to have strong synergies, which we recognized as being one of the winning points for Sentinel. And last but not least, the company's reliability. So you've been in the business for more than 30 years now, if I get the right figures. And so definitely this was key as well in our decision process. So, and basically I just have two last slides. So one is more, what did we achieve? So I will show you the SMB marketplace we have. It's not completely, the 20% revenue we generate with software today is not completely flowing from this, right? It's just the start. So we have now a SMB marketplace, mainly launched in the UK at the moment, but that will become global in the next year. We will launch in November in USA as well, and we expect we will launch 3 apps at the beginning, and we expect the portfolio of apps and the number of customers to increase dramatically. So we have this small and medium businesses marketplace where you could find application for any digital communication, data cleansing, or tipping solution you may have as a SMB. We, at the moment, mainly target our existing customers. We help them moving to digital, but soon we will address all prospects as well we have. And we have built this digital delivery platform of which Sentinel Cloud is one key part. So it's more for internal purpose, but this platform is meant to sustain all business operations in the scope of the digital and the software activity we have, and to be able to onboard any new application or software acquisition in the process of selling through the Neopost distribution network. So this is pure IT there, but I'm going to play Tetris, right? So first, of course, we have, so I'm sorry I left the name of the components. I realized this morning not many people was mentioning other companies, but here you're going to see all the software we use, right? So we have our CRM to manage our customer interactions, right? It's key. We want to be a customer company. We will have and drive a lot of things through digital marketing. So we will create customer communities. We will manage the acquisition and the activation and the retention through this channel. Then we have, I should not place this first, so I will directly put Sentinel Cloud. Then we have Sentinel Cloud. In Sentinel Cloud, we define our bill of material for our products. So for instance, my output management solution I define it once. I say, okay, it's the core plus this feature, this one are optional. And then when I launch it at the market, I can create multiple editions in my subscription billing software, where I define my services, my editions, with the rates and where I can bill my customer. So Sentinel Cloud acts as the provisioning system and the bill of material, and then we decline as many editions as we want in our subscription billing system and subscription management system. Plus, we use Sentinel. It's tightly coupled with our application, and we use it to track all usage, to secure the usage we are tracking, to track all usage, be it a billed usage or non-billed usage, by the way, because there are some things we want to monitor to know whether it makes sense to upsell or cross-sell to the customer. And all this usage flows back to our subscription billing system for billing at the end of the period. On top of that, we have added the identity piece of the ecosystem to manage user IDs from our customers and their right to access the applications. So their role in the application more than the rights, because the rights is more managed by the entitlements we have in Sentinel. On top of that, we have added our marketplace, and then a couple of what we call the toolbox, which is shared components among the different applications we have. And that is our digital delivery platform sustaining the business, the digital operations of our business. And based on that, then we will plug our apps. So they are the name. Don't pay attention to the names, but we will because these are internal names for apps being developed or being acquired. But we will plug all our apps to this ecosystem, and I hope many partners' apps as well, etc. So we don't want to compete with the App Exchange directly, or we don't want to compete with some other known marketplaces. But we know that for our customers, we may compete at some point first, and we know that for our customers, we are a recognized partner, and we know that they will likely subscribe to our offers. That's it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Guillaume. We're getting to the next one. That's Darren Leach from HID Global, who's going to talk to us today. Is Darren around?
Yes,
where?
Learmonth.
Pardon me?
Learmonth. Last name.
Darren Learmonth. Sorry. Sorry. From HID Global. HID Global is actually a competitor from SafeNet, if you want to put it in the big picture, because they're also doing secure identity solutions, often in relationship to building access, etc. You know, SafeNet is also in the secure identity space. They have bought our solution, but I can tell you when I go to our Redwood City office, I take an HID key access card to enter the building. So we're all working together. Darren has come from the UK to speak to us today. By the way, maybe if you don't know HID Global, you might happen to know Assa Abloy. It's a $7 billion Swedish security company, of which HID is a part. So very, very big brand in Europe, at least. Darren, thank you.
Thank you. So our use case is somewhat different to everybody else's. We make hardly any money out of software. So you might ask, why are we doing this? There's a reason, like there always is. So I'd like to tell you about HID Global. Probably most of you have never heard of us. Probably. Probably even less of you have actually heard of Assa Abloy and what they do. So I'll give you the quick overview. And the reason why we've done this is kind of critical to our business, actually, and why we chose Sentinel and why we chose SafeNet. And then I spent thousands of hours building an animation in PowerPoint. And I tell you, I woke up and I thought, I can see it. I can see this lovely animation in PowerPoint. It was so much easier to work with SafeNet than to create the horrible animation I ended up with. Okay, so Assa Abloy, 43,000 employees around the world, and we're just celebrating our 20th anniversary. And I bet most of you haven't heard of Assa Abloy. But I bet you all have a front door. And I bet most of you have a handle on the front door, and most of you have a lock. And the lock probably has the name Yale on it. That's Assa Abloy. That's one of our major public faces. Assa Abloy is highly acquisitive. In 2013, Assa Abloy acquired 12 companies and integrated them into the business. HID Global was one of those acquisitions a long, long time ago. So we're now part of the Global Technology Division. And as was said, we make things like this. Access cards. Not very exciting. No software. Actually, there is quite a lot of software inside these. You probably see little black boxes on the wall where you hold your card against. That's probably the face of HID Global that you see most often. Anybody use internet banking? Back-end system is probably one of theirs, or one of ours, or one of Thales's. So it's all about secure identity, and it's all about protecting the things that you love and know. If you have a pet, and the pet has a little RFID tag in its neck, that's probably one of ours. And every single cow in Turkey has one of our tags in its ear. But we also do software solutions. And we do software solutions like, if you ever win the lottery and therefore can afford one night in the Burj Khalifa, the registration desk is run by our software. So, we are extremely acquisitive. This is the Assa Abloy 20-year timeline, and that doesn't show a tenth of the companies that Assa Abloy has bought. That is one of their major strategies. Let's go buy a company. And they're extremely successful in it. And HID Global do exactly the same. Just last year, we bought 2 companies and closed on them. We have several in the pipeline for this year. And a little bit before I joined HID, which was only 18 months ago, our CTO had a look around and he discovered that there were several licensing schemes in existence. They were highly complex. They were part of the acquisitions. And no, they're completely secret. You can't touch these. They were things like Excel spreadsheets or Perl scripts that only one person could run in a secret dark basement, honest. And when you actually looked into them, they provided no security. They provided no feature management. They really weren't anything exciting or startling. And we wanted one global, simple solution built into our business logic. That was critical for us. But also for us, we didn't want any more waste. One of our business units regularly releases software, burns it onto DVDs, but the DVDs come with a minimum order quantity of like 1,000 or 2,500, and they'd ship 6, and then shred the rest because they needed to buy another 2,500. And quite brutally, we wanted to speed the time that we got money from our customers. And that was quite simple. For me, finding SafeNet was really easy. I now work at HID, so we're kind of like competitors and bedfellows. But before I joined HID, I worked at Thales Security, and I was their CTO. And so the war between their data protection division and my Thales division was daily. So I knew what SafeNet did. I also know where we sort of competed with the monetization strategy that SafeNet has. A pretty big company near here, pretty near here, over that way, I think, relies on a Thales solution. So I kind of knew the marketplace. Of course, I spoke to Thales, and that's what they could provide us. And I spoke to SafeNet. The reason that we chose SafeNet was it was a partnership from the first telephone call. It was a really simple piece of business to do. And in fact, the guy who took all of my money, Jamie, I still haven't met him. He's back in the UK. He sent me out here. I still haven't met the guy. That's how easy it was. And the amount of market information there was on Google and several other search engines that allowed me to create a very simple justification for SafeNet, despite what looked like a big dollar value for something that we make no money out of, was an easy sell to the ex-com. It really was simple. The implementation, it was massive, high priority. Darren, you must achieve this. I know you know nobody in our business. You've only just joined, but you must achieve this by Christmas. Well, we managed to sign the deal by Christmas. And so then the intent was to go live by the end of Q1, which didn't seem like too much of a challenge, really. Late in December, we had Jam and Bastian come to our Irvine facility, and we had a big soiree. All of the different acquisitions all got together, all the techie people. And then we had some IT hangers-on, and we had some finance hangers-on, and we realized just how complicated this was, and what we were trying to achieve was really complicated. But what came out of that discovery session was a really smart piece of work from SafeNet that quite clearly showed us where we were going to connect, where we weren't going to connect, how data was going to get transformed, and a path forward. The project was sponsored by our CTO, run day-to-day by me, until finally we had a deployment plan. And the deployment plan was fully linked into moving one of our acquisitions into our global Oracle solution. A company that we acquired called Active Identity a few years ago, who were also competitors of SafeNet. So it's now in, I've kind of talked ahead of that, but lots and lots of discussions. We're now at the point of testing. So we have a complete data model that's been moved to our global Oracle. We have an on-prem deployed solution that is connected into Oracle. We have a complete second, what we call CRP, a second round of testing is going to happen in 3 weeks' time. That's a 2-week testing period with a go live for the end of January. So we're still in testing, but so far, fingers crossed, everything looks really good. And I hope so, because I've got 4 development teams now actively building software to use this, and they're expecting to deploy middle of next year. What have we built? And what did we have before? I've talked about what we had before. A customer might ring up and say, I've lost the license key for this piece of hokey-pokey software that you sold me. I need a new one. Can't have that for 3 weeks because Bob's on PTO, and only Bob can do the secret incantations in the basement. But of course, I couldn't tell the customer that. You have to tell the customer something else. What we will have by the end of January, we use a system called Agile, and that's not the scrummy thing that the software guys do. This is a software tool that allows us to manage our bill of materials, and it's tightly integrated into our business logic called Oracle. So Agile holds our bill of materials. And what we do now, what we started to do in our test system, when we create a bill of materials for a software item, we choose which pieces of that software are licensed. So we call them features. And they have a specific tag, and I picked up some dodgy graphics off the web just to show the kind of things that are licensed. We all know what a license key looks like. When we push that into Agile as a bill of materials, it comes with a special tag now. The special tag contains version information, it contains rights, it contains what kind of software license it's going to be. Is it counting? Is it number of use? Is it time limited? Or is it maintenance? And that automatically gets pushed into our Oracle when we make that an orderable part. Then the business logic inside Oracle says, that's an orderable part, I've seen it before, it's just a new version, and I can cope with that. Or, that's an orderable part, I don't know what that is anymore, and it automatically pushes it into the SafeNet solution. So now when I get a customer order, and I wish we had a web front end, but we don't, someone types it into Oracle, Oracle now automatically pushes that to the licensing solution. Licensing solution generates an email with an entitlement key in it, direct to the customer, sends the entitlement key back into Oracle to say that that line item is fulfilled, and we bill instantly. Straight for the jugular, because we assume that the customer has got it. We are in the process of implementing an online download solution as well. Well, what I didn't add to this hideously complicated slide was that the license server is also connected to Salesforce.com. What that means is, fingers crossed, I will never log into RMS, EMS. Because if I want to know about my maintenance expiry from my tech support department, they get that out of Salesforce.com. If my salesman wants to know when he can go chase a customer for some maintenance money, he gets that out of Salesforce.com. If a customer rings up and says, I've lost my entitlement key, can I have another one? I can look it up in Oracle against his order. That's where we are. Thank you.